Welcome to the first episode of Quick Chop. My name is Eric Lichwager. I'll be your host for this series, and today we're going to be talking about ways to get meals cooked quick, easy, fresh, and stress-free, and also on a pretty good budget too. So I'm going to explore different recipes that I like to make at home, and eating healthy and staying healthy and getting it done and out to your family, and you'll enjoy it. Today, one of my favorites is broiled steelhead with yams and grilled asparagus, and I hope you like this. Some of my favorite dishes are always quick and easy because I like to get things done. I like to get dinner on the table, get into the wine, and enjoy the evening. I don't want to stay in the kitchen all night. So stick with me, and I'll teach you a couple things, and perhaps you'll learn something. And if you see some tips that you like or some things you think that I might like, send them in, and also any recipes over to quickchop@newsupnow.org, and we'll take a look. If we like some of your stuff, we'll make sure it gets on the air for the next episode. So stick with me and let's get chopping. Quick Chop is provided by Mission Grocery Outlet in San Francisco. The biggest thing I think most people have a lot of trouble with is timing. You've got salmon, we've got yams, we've got onions and asparagus. Everything takes a little different time to cook. So it's always important to figure out where you want to start. And I typically want to start with the stuff that's going to take the most time or the longest cooking time. So today, everything cooks fairly quickly, but which is going to take probably the longest are the yams. What I like to do when I'm cooking yams is select them according to kind of uniformity. When you're doing thin and thick, I try to pick some that are fairly uniform in size. I don't like to peel the yams because there's a lot of nutrients in the skins of these things. And one thing that I like to do to speed things up, especially with yams, is you can kind of par cook them. And the best way to do that, it's in the good old microwave. So we're gonna pierce these things a little bit so that they can vent off steam while they are in the microwave. Hit them with a knife a couple of times. And for this size, I've got 3 of them. Usually about between 5 and 10 minutes in your average microwave is going to be fine. We don't want them fully microwaved. We want them just kind of halfway there because we're going to finish them off in the pan. So I'm going to pop these in right now. The next thing I like to do is prepare the entree, the main dish. We're not going to cook it right away, but we're going to get it ready. So this is a great northern steelhead. It's fresh. It's from the salmon family. Got a little bit nicer color to me sometimes. When you're selecting salmon pieces, if you're having more than one portion that you're looking to do, try to get equal size portions because the thicknesses, and you can have the tails. The tails are fantastic. This package here is great because I've got 2 nice pieces and they're already pre-cut. Generally, I like to keep my cutting boards separated, which is not a bad idea. When I get the salmon out or the steelhead out of the packaging, I like to take a paper towel and just generally lightly dab it and remove any sort of excess moisture that might be on the package and also on the skin side. And you can tell the steelhead because it's got this beautiful red stripe down the side, which salmon does not typically have. The reason I do that is because we're going to be broiling this. If we want it to get a nice browning on it, the moisture will slow down that process. So we want to remove that excess on there. Really simple. We're just going to take a little bit of pink salt, salt it a little bit on the surface. And with fish, we're not turning it. We are just going to put it in the broiler and it's going to cook on one side. We'll put a little olive oil in here. Then I'll take a little bit of the soy sauce. So this is just plain low sodium soy, not much, and just kind of dab this on here. And the reason I do this is because the soy has a little bit of sugar. That will help the browning. And you can do this with a lot of meats that you're sticking into the broilers, especially when they're cooking quickly, because salmon cooks fast. So if we want it to brown nicely, in that short period of time, we have to put something that's going to be an accelerant to that broiling, that browning process. A little bit of soy, and now we'll just add a little bit of olive oil on top. Salmon, that's ready, that's done. That's all we're doing to it, okay? Really simple, really basic. A lot of people like to put sauces and everything on top of their food, and I get it, but When you have these delicate ingredients like a steelhead, you want to appreciate the food for what it is. You want to taste, I want to taste the steelhead. I don't want to taste the $1.99 sauce that you bought at the corner store. That's not what I'm paying for. I'm paying for salmon, which is more expensive. I don't want all that sweet stuff on it. Besides, it's not good for you. The yams, let's get going on those. So the yams, they're perfect. So they're still pretty firm, but a little bit pliable. You know, they're kind of like halfway cooked, which is perfect. All right, so what I'll generally do is, again, I leave the skins on. I generally take off the ends here. When you're cutting, and this goes for pretty much everything, especially if you're going to be cooking it, uniform cuts. So don't thick, thin, because you're going to have different cooking times. We're going to just stay with a nice disc, and we're going to go about ½ inch to ¼ inch thick on these guys. You know, everybody's got their own theories about knives, how to hold them, how to slice things. You know, use your favorite knife. Try to stay away from the serrated edge knives. You know, they're pretty ubiquitous. They're all over the place. We're gonna have a little bit of an onion with this, just not too much. Don't like to go overboard on the onions. Yellow onions are generally the best ones I like to use. If you're just cooking for yourself or 2 people, you don't want the whole onion, leave the skin on the whole thing. If you are prone to crying when you're doing your onions, I get it. Refrigerate them. It helps to keep that down. It's a gas that's actually coming off. I'm gonna take that tip off there because I don't need that. The way you slice the onion depends upon what you're doing with it. So if we want small pieces, because we're just looking for flavoring, we're gonna slice it a little differently. So one way you can start is to go through the onion in this manner, about 2 slices, and then down through here. Now you're ready. So now I'm going to have fairly small pieces on this onion. It's going to cook very quickly and give me pretty much exactly what I want. Now pretty much we have a nice uniform size on all the pieces of the onion, and that's what we want. It's a flavoring we're after. It's not for the presentation of the meal. I've already got the oven going, the broiler's on, it's on high. Let's talk about asparagus for a second. Depending upon the grower and the time of year, you will see different kinds of asparagus in the market. You'll see the thick ones, which are fantastic, and the thin ones, which are also cooked properly. They are also fantastic. We're talking healthy and on a budget sometimes. Think about how many asparagus you actually want. Does everybody like asparagus? How many people do you have? Generally a bunch like this, you know, you're gonna get about 4 for 4 people, and I'm almost exactly, that's what I've got here. So I'm gonna show you a little bit something different that you probably haven't seen before. So I'm gonna cook half of these. I'm gonna set these over here. Some people cut them. I don't like to do that, and this is what my grandmother taught me. She said there's a point on the asparagus where they just naturally snap. That's the woody part. White asparagus are generally grown in caves, and that's why they're white. And it's just the way the horticulture of the asparagus is treated. These, by the way, were $1.99 for a bunch at Mission Grocery Outlet. Great price. So I'm gonna wanna take all these little broken pieces off just to give myself a nice presentation again. One more step you could take if you really wanted to be fancy is you could peel these a little bit. Sometimes in very good restaurants, they'll take them and they'll peel them slightly. And usually just take the knife very gently down and take some of that off. What's really nice about doing this is it makes the asparagus super tender. By parboiling it a little bit and prepping them, it's only going to take a minute to finish them off. So it's one of those things, it's the garnish, so we can do it the last step before we're serving. Because asparagus, you want them hot. Cold asparagus on the plate, not that great. Pay attention. Don't go wandering off to watch TV or the latest, Instagram thing. You're gonna burn it or ruin it. So I'm gonna prep the water a little bit now. I'm gonna put a little salt in there. Not a lot, because we're gonna salt this dish when we final it. I'm adding sugar. And why the hell are you adding sugar? Well, the sugar helps asparagus keep their color. And you'll see what I mean as these guys cook. Most of the sugar is going to leave when we strain it out of the water. Get a good pair of tongs. Tongs in the kitchen are like the best. Take a look with the camera here. You can see that the color of the asparagus is stained very, very bright. The amount of time that you're going to cook them in the water depends on their thickness, so you really have to kind of judge that and be careful about that. I can kind of tell just by tapping the tongs on them how firm they are. I want them to stay firm. And one thing I cannot stand is overcooked asparagus because they hit a point and they immediately just go flat. All right, that's probably about good. I'm gonna take them out and I'm gonna put them in an ice bath. And the reason I wanna do that is because I wanna stop the cooking. And I want it to stop exactly when I'm done. If I just take them out of the pan and put them on a plate, guess what? They're gonna continue to cook because they are hot. All right, so just roll these around in the ice water for a minute until you touch them. They still feel firm and they're no longer hot or warm. They're nice and cool. And then we're just gonna lay them on a towel and let them drain. I'm just gonna pat these dry a little bit. Now's the time to get started on the yams. And we're using the same pan. You can use olive oil, or grapeseed oil is great. We're not going really high temperature here, so olive oil for me is fine. So we're just gonna add some of that into our pan. You wanna wait till your pan gets to temperature and your oil gets to temperature. Once it starts having more fluidity, I guess, that's gonna give you some idea of whether your pan's at temperature or not. If your oil starts to smoke, start over. As I can see, this oil is now moving more almost like water now rather than it was when it was more viscous. I'm gonna go ahead and add the onions and the yams. And just by the sound, I know that temperature on that pan was right. We're done with the sugar. Sometimes it's hard to juggle, all the different things you're trying to get accomplished for a particular meal, because one of the things we're going to do here is we're going to make blistered peppers, mini peppers. Okay, the onions are getting to a translucency point, so it's kind of good. So I'm going to turn the heat down for a little bit, and we're going to get our broiler going. Now the peppers, they've got the stems on them, up to you. The mini peppers have very few seeds in them. But you can just kind of take that tip off. When you look inside this thing, you can see that there's an attachment point on each part of the pepper. And if I just stick the knife in there and slice it, I can just kind of pop that section of seed out, nice and hollowed out, and then just tap any remaining seeds out of there. Now I'm going to cut these on the lengthwise, and you can clear out any remaining seeds that you want. Now we're going to blister these, so I'm going to leave them, the smaller ones, in halves. I'll quarter the larger one. And salt. We just want a good, nice little coating on there. So we're really interested in a top surface on these guys, and a nice coloring on them. I'm going to turn them top or outside up. Crack the door. This is a really bad time to go, start getting on your phone or something like that. We want them to brown properly and blister, but we don't want to overdo it. And I've got a nice cast iron pan here. Let's get the mango going. So while the peppers are starting to blister, we call it blistering, browning, you can almost watch it change once they start to brown, because it just takes 10 or 15 seconds past a particular point where you're going to not be happy. So those are done. Again, make your life easy. Work with sharp knives. You'll be happier. Really fantastic flavor combination on yams is a little bit of cumin, which I'm going to add here. And be careful. Doesn't take much. A little bit of smoked paprika, which when we combine it with the cilantro and the mango and the peppers, it's really going to be great. So in the oven now, I've got a really hot pan ready for the salmon. And I don't want to pour olive oil on there. Cooking sprays were great. It's a good application for them. Next best thing I've got today is grapeseed oil. It's a little more healthy, but a nice high flash point. So I can go ahead and add it to the pan, and it's not going to start smoking and burning. Remember this, it's very hot. So the salmon's in. Now's a perfect time to finish and get ready for our asparagus. Now, salmon's just about ready, yams are just about ready, asparagus is just on. Great time to open the wine. So I've selected two wines that are possible. Salmon is fairly robust fish. It's got a lot of oil to it, so it can hold up. Chardonnay is a great. This is a Skyfall Vineyards Chardonnay, grocery outlet, $4.99. And it's fantastic. So it's going to have a nice dry character, and that will suit nicely with the salmon. We've also got a pretty spicy yam dish, so we could also go with a Pinot Noir. Now brought here an Avalon Pinot. This is $5.99 at Mission Grocery Outlet in San Francisco, and because of the price is so reasonable, we can open them both. Screw top, don't let screw tops bother you. With the salmon almost done, the yams are done, everything's ready to pretty much come off. We'll turn off the broiler, leave the door open. Nice apple and pear character to it. 100% pure Chardonnay on that one. Yeah, it's very soft. Probably hasn't been an oak too much, but that's fine. We'll plate right there. I love using baker spatulas. They're a really versatile tool in the kitchen. Now, notice the asparagus, they're fully cooked, and look at the color. That's one uncooked. Now, They've got olive oil, they've got salt, but what I do like to do is put a little lemon zest on the asparagus. Trust me, your dinner guest, it'll blow their minds. You know, they will go, what did you do? And it's the lemon zest is a nice accompaniment because we're going to put just a little bit of lemon on the fish. Now, we can do this a couple of different ways. And de-seed it. And finally, we got a little bit of garni to go on here. This cilantro or coriander with the yams is a fantastic combination, especially when you consider you've got cumin and the curry in there. This is washed, by the way. Really recommend you always wash your cilantro. And the last bit is just a little bit of the mango. It's actually pretty simple. It's not a very complicated thing. There's just a few ingredients in there that are not typically seen together. Thanks for tuning in, and send me your comments, your questions, and of course your recipes. QuickChop@newsupnow.org or via social media, QuickChop. Keep chopping. See you next time.